here.
Thanks, John.
All set? Thank you. Welcome to the October 1st meeting of the Trinity County Board of Supervisors. If you'll join me, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm always waiting for a prayer after that. Okay, we have two presentations today. The first is under Clerk of the Board, receive an update from U.S. Forest Service representatives regarding matters of interest in Trinity County. And we have Ben Sundahl here today. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Chairman, Chair. Ben Sundahl with the U.S. Forest Service, South Fork and Trinity River Management Units provided an October 1st update. So we'll get the hard discussion out of the way first. So I've spoken to our key partners on the west side of the National Forest. The budget for FY25 for the Forest Service does not look good. So what does that mean? With reduced funding levels, we're going to be getting creative in how we work internally and with our partners to continue the amazing work we have on the landscape. Our hiring efforts will slow down dramatically, which will result in fewer permanent staff being hired and only being hired internally within the Forest Service. Our 1039 seasonal staff will not be rehired outside of fire in FY25, which actually started today. It's October 1st. So that's a huge hit to us as an agency, the Forest Service. Other land management agencies are not in the same boat as us, but the Forest Service budget and hiring outlook is not the greatest looking for FY25. We will still continue to prioritize and focus our work within the wildfire crisis strategy landscapes for forest health and community wildfire protection. The agency's primary focus right now is finding creative ways to fund the current permanent workforce. So with that, they will be withholding select contracts and agreements. And those contracts and agreements that have been placed on hold and only on hold. So let's just say somewhere down the road in the future, we get some additional funding, maybe with an administration change. Those contracts can be executed then, or those agreements can be awarded then. So they're not canceled, they're just placed on hold. The partners that those agreements and contracts that have been placed on hold, the partners that impacts, they have been notified. So nobody has been caught off guard with this. So trusted relationships with our partners, our community, the Board of Supervisors will remain in place. We'll continue to strengthen those trusted relationships and the way we work on the landscape, integrate our workforce into the community. That'll still move forward. We're just going to have to get creative and be very flexible within the next fiscal year on how we accomplish our work on the landscape. So that's the hard news right off the bat. So moving on, planning, working with the Watershed Center on the Barman project. That one is very close to being finalized. Our specialists are working with the Watershed Center specialists to button up the reports, and that should be across the finish line here soon. High and Palm Community Risk Reduction Project, which is 12,500 acres. We're just waiting on one specialist report to go to NIMS for their fish review. So that should be closing out soon. We are starting to kick off the Big Ranch Community Risk Reduction Project with the Six Rivers National Forest. We have a field trip this Friday with the collaborative group. We will be touring multiple stops regarding different treatment options within that project. And then we'll have an official kickoff meeting with the Six Rivers National Forest late October, early November, and then hopefully go out to scoping and public comment early 2025. So that one's moving forward. The North Trinity County Community Risk Reduction Project that is being led by the Shasta Lake District, that should be going out to scope within the next week or two. Junction City Project, we had a collaborative field trip last Friday with the group on the Junction City Project. We supported the Watershed Center in that field trip. From everything that was been told to me, that field trip went very well. I was not able to attend due to other priorities that had occurred last week. So quite a number of projects still on the shelf, trying to get across the finish line. And we're still moving forward as is with our current program of work, just knowing that when we get our actual funding numbers and how we're funding our workforce over the next couple of days or within the next week, we may have to adjust or just be flexible on how we accomplish that work. So we will see what happens. Implementation. The community risk reduction SPA was executed at the Watershed Center. That is to treat roughly 2,500 acres along the Indian Valley Road and Oak Ridge Road, just outside of Hayfork. The Hayward Timber Sale, which is part of the North Trinity County, no, actually the Trinity Camps project that was the NEPA was signed. So the Hayward Timber Sale, which is also incorporating the approach and departure path for the Trinity Airport. That timber sale was awarded September 26th. So work out there should begin here shortly. And then we also had 2 settlement sales with PG&E that are going to be starting work around Corral Bottom and hauling off the 1647 and 60 roads. So that work should be starting soon. A lot of great work in recreation. So we've had a really fortunate, positive time having the Triple Cs, having the Smart Center, and just the amazing group of volunteers that go out with our staff and do good work in the trail systems in the Trinity Alps and the Yola Wilderness. So the Triple Cs and Smart Center for the FY24 field season, they were able to complete 73 miles of trail work. So that includes 13 miles of retreading or redoing the trails, 39 miles of improved trail use for stock, and then 31 miles of trail brushing. Volunteer work, they were able to accomplish 84.5 miles of trail work between the Trinity Alps and Yola Wilderness. 75 volunteers contributed just shy of 2,700 hours of personal time for 63 work days. And groups that made that possible are the Backcountry Horsemen, College of the Redwoods, Take to the Hills, Bigfoot Trail Alliance, and Ascend Wilderness Experience. So a huge shout out to those groups for the amazing work they were able to accomplish in FY24 on our trail systems in our 2 wilderness areas on the west side of the Shasta Trinity National Forest. Moving on to special uses, the digital path fire alert cameras, that review came back from the Washington office. Our special uses permit administrator made the edits to the permits. Now those permits go to the regional office, which they are at the regional office for final review, and then they'll come back to Rachel for signature. So that is moving along. Our goal is to get those permits issued here within the next couple of weeks. So that gives them time to get some of those cameras installed before winter weather really sets in over here in Trinity County. So that is moving along nicely. We are still in discussions around the fire alert camera, Ironside Mountain. Moving on to prescribed fire. So for fall, winter 24, then winter, spring of 25, the Trinity River Management Unit is planning to accomplish 590 acres of broadcast burning, 710 acres of pile burning. The South Fork Management Unit plan to accomplish 97 acres of broadcast burning and 2,369 acres of pile burning across both management units. And I sent you guys, along with the notes, the press release for the prescribed fire, and it lists kind of the details of the locations of those burn units. Our fire suppression staff has remained active. Knock on wood, it's been slow here, which is good, but they have been supporting national incidents. We also have staff supporting the hurricane relief back east as well. So our fire suppression staff are still moving about across the country, supporting national incidents. Our fire suppression staff still remains strong, fully staffed, and then we also have other federal engines and contract engines supplementing our staffing levels to ensure that we have adequate staffing here on the local unit, knowing that we're still at high fire danger on the west side of the Trinity National Forest. Our new law enforcement officer for the Trinity River Management Unit, Devin McGee, he has started. Hopefully he has title in the Trinity County Sheriff's Office, but he is no stranger to the Trinity National Forest. He has worked for the Forest Service for numerous years before starting his job over on the Lassen as a prevention/reserved officer. He was a firefighter at the Shasta Lake unit. And then we were able to steal him back from the Lassen, and now he's our permanent law enforcement officer over here. So it'll be a good hire to maintain the relationships here on the west side. And it's nice to have a law enforcement officer here on the TRMU. A detailed deputy district ranger has been selected. So yes, now I have help finally. So we'll have 2 line officers back on the west side. That individual start date is still being worked out with HR. But we're shooting for late October. And once we get confirmation that his paperwork has gone through the system, I'll make the announcement of that individual's name. But looking forward to late October, early November of having 2 line officers back here on the west side to support us and in the communities that we serve. And that would be end of my report. Any questions?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for being here so regularly and with so much information. I think it's valuable to all of us to, even if the news isn't good and we're familiar with delivering bad news, that we feel informed and we know what's happening and we're in it together. So I appreciate that. Any comments, questions? Yes.
Couple of things. First of all, thank you for sending your notes out ahead of time. Love reading with you. That's really nice. When you got to the North Trinity County Risk Reduction Project, you said the scoping begins on that when again?
It should be out within the next week, talking to Sarah Acreage.
Okay.
Yep.
And then could you give me some clarity when we're looking at, in my head, I separate priority landscape funding differently than regular staffing normal budget. Is that reality? And are we looking at both of those being reduced or perhaps our priority landscape even non-existent?
We're looking, they're all options on the table. We haven't even seen our funding and how we're going to pay for salary for FY25, but knowing that we're already in FY25. So the Washington office has taken basically all funding sources away from the, not away from the region, but have placed all funding mechanisms onto the table on how they can be creative on how they fund the current permanent workforce. So based on which job codes are associated with each employee will dictate how we accomplish our work on the landscape.
Okay. And then when we're saying that right now, our staff, we're fully staffed during what still is high fire danger right now, my mind projects a year forward. And so, but basically what you've just said is, I don't know.
So you kind of have to separate, and I hate doing this, you have to kind of separate the fire organization from the non-fire organization. So the current funding and hiring crisis is more impactful on the non-fire side. On the fire suppression side, they do have a slight deficit, but it's not as impactful. So within the fire organization, they're still moving forward with their permanent fire hire initiatives. They'll still be hiring their seasonal workforce for field season 25. So the only difference is that maybe fire will be supporting botany surveys in the spring of calendar year 25 and such. But their primary duty when we get back into fire season will be fire suppression responsibilities. So fire really hasn't been as impacted as the non-fire has with the hiring and budget crisis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking that. That was what I was wanting to know too.
Yeah.
I guess a follow-up to that, Ben, you may not know the answer, but is this based on an affirmative decision by Congress, or is it because Congress keeps kicking the can down the road and we don't know?
So, and I'm only going to share with how the chief described it to us on one of the chief's calls. So Randy Moore described it as over the last couple of fiscal years, we've kind of seen a flat budget in the Forest Service, but then Congress has given us pay increases and allowed us to increase our staffing levels based on, landscape funding, other bills out there. And then, but they didn't account into the future fiscal years where we're at now on the pay increases, the increased staffing, the inflation, the cost of the work to get done. And now we're moving into FY25, and now we're kind of like, uh-oh, what happened? So it's basically due because of flat budget, and then giving folks pay raises across the board in the agency, and then allowing us to hire to increase our staffing. And yeah, the annual appropriated budget did not keep track.
Painfully familiar. Okay. Well, again, thanks for being here. Definitely not shooting the messenger. We appreciate knowing what's going on, and thank you for looking for creative ways to support our communities.
Yeah. We'll be here right lockstep right beside you guys and the communities and everybody that we serve and our partners. And we'll just stay nimble and flexible, and we'll still accomplish the job. We'll just have to get super creative on how we do it. And a lot of Forest Service employees love being creative and thinking outside the box. So the needle will continue to move forward.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Based on who I see in the room, I gather our next presentation is virtual. So we have a second presentation under County Administrative Office. Receive an update from Public Information Officer Justin Caparuso, hopefully pronounced correctly, regarding the launch of our social media platforms. Hi, Justin.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Thank you so much for having me today. Justin Caparuso, I am the Contract Public Information Officer for Trinity County. An exciting day. We're excited to announce officially the launch of Trinity County's social media accounts on the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter platforms. We've been working behind the scenes to get these platforms up and running over the last several weeks, and launched an official video this morning that, if you all would allow, I would like to share with you in a minute. As most of you are aware, whether we like it or not, social media has really become a critical public resource for sharing news and information with the general public over the last handful of years. Specifically during emergencies and situations that require real-time communication, social media is a really good tool to utilize for public agencies and getting out critical kind of updates. While not a replacement by any means for the traditional communications that the county undergoes, social media will be utilized going forward as a supplemental form of communication. All of these social media content that's published will also be available via the website and will be sent to local media as well. If you'll indulge me, I'd love to kind of share my screen and walk through a few of the platforms with you. Here you'll see the Trinity County Facebook page. There's no content yet other than the video that we've launched this morning. As you can see here, our very first post is a video with your very own chair kind of announcing the launch of the social media platforms. We've got 4 followers at this point, and we're looking forward to growing that number as we make this official announcement and send out a press release later today. I also wanted to showcase our Instagram profile. This is just another communication tool. As you can see, this is a really great platform for video and images. A lot better than Facebook in terms of that. And so this video content really plays well on Instagram. And as you're probably aware, the different platforms really appeal to different audiences, which is why we really need to be spread across all 3 platforms. I'm not going to showcase the Twitter the platform right now because we're logged into the back end, and it's a different view than you would see from the public. But I'd like to now play the video of Chair Litwire that goes into a little more detail about why we've launched these platforms and how we intend to use them.
Hello, Trinity County. I'm Rick Litweiler, Chair of the Board of Supervisors, and today I'm excited to share some big news with you. As we are all too aware, social media has become an important part of our everyday lives. Nowadays, residents rely on social media for timely, accurate information on everything from emergency response to local community events, often turning to social media as a first source for current information. In our ongoing commitment to clear communication and transparency, I'm proud to announce the launch of Trinity County's official social media accounts. Through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, the county now has additional ways to connect with you, our residents, businesses, and visitors, so we can keep you informed and share important countywide updates. Our commitment to transparency and open communication is stronger than ever. Social media will allow us to share information faster and make it easier for you to engage with county services, projects, and events. And that's not all. We're also working to enhance our website to ensure it's a user-friendly hub for all the resources and information you need. Stay tuned for more information on this in the coming months. We're excited about these new opportunities to improve how we connect with you. So join me, follow us on social media, and like and share this video with your networks. Stay updated, and let's keep building a stronger, more informed Trinity County together. Thank you.
Yay, good job.
Thank you so much for recording that. Appreciate that. And just a quick reminder and a couple key points to make. Again, social media is not going to be used to as a sole source for communication, but a supplemental resource. And secondly, your board should expect to see a social media policy come before your consideration in the near future that outlines the rules and regulations around how the county can engage on the social media platforms that we have. So with that, we do ask that encourage all of you and residents and visitors to follow our platforms today, share the video that we've created to kind of help build our audience, and continue to engage with the platforms as additional information and updates are released. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Does
you.
anybody have any comments or questions for Justin?
No, this is exciting.
Okay, thanks again. I know a lot of work getting these things set up and we're just getting started, but it's I'm personally excited to have this communication channel open and just to know that we're really very intentional about how we're going to start communicating in these channels. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we will now move into public comment. This time is for information from the public on matters not appearing on this agenda or within the consent calendar. All comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. When addressing the board, please state your name for the record and address the board as a whole through the chair. No action or discussion will be conducted on matters not listed on the agenda. However, the chair may refer the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up or schedule the matter on a subsequent board agenda. Any public comment in the room? Online?
I have no raised hands.
Okay, thank you
Oh.
very much. Oh, we do have a raised hand.
We
Okay.
do. Ben?
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. I just have a quick question. I've been doing some research over the last week or so, and I came across a video online, and I'm trying to filter out the noise going on. So I just want to read a quote that was shared with me from a few years back from a Sheriff Saxon campaign rally. And I would like to find out, you guys obviously can't comment, but was wondering if this had actually happened, since we're all talking about budgets and everything within the sheriff's department and as a whole. The quote is, I will share this with you. I'm retired and I have a pension coming from PERS. When you elect me as sheriff, I will opt out of PERS, meaning the county will not have to pay their portion of my retirement. You know what that means. That's big money. It's already budgeted for. I'm going to negotiate with the Board of Supervisors and the CAO to create specifically a training fund for the Sheriff's Department, end quote. Just wondering if that had actually happened. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I have no additional raised hands.
Okay, thank you. Under reports and announcements, report from department heads. I don't see any in the room. Any online?
I have none unmuting or raising their hand.
Okay. And a report from our illustrious CAO.
Well, your illustrious CAO does not have anything specifically to report right now, but I do have a number of comments as we go into the county matters item.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, updates from supervisors. Supervisor Gogan, would you please lead us off?
Yes. Last week week before I was at the TMC meeting.
Mike.
Sorry about that. I was at the TMC meeting in Eureka. We put forward a proposal from the county for the winter variable flows. It was unanimously accepted. Trinity County worked very hard to get what we think is the best proposal possible moving forward. And we will see the beginning of the first actual year of winter variable flows, which we have a lot of hope in. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that. And hopefully we have a wet winter also. Just a reminder that the dental care bus is coming to Weaverville on October 9th through October 12th. It'll be at the Veterans Hall, and it'll be there from, I think, 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock. It is free for everybody that's K through 4th grade. They can get fluoride, dental hardening, some teeth pulled, cavities filled. And if you do have to travel to Weaverville from out of Weaverville, they are also giving $30 gas vouchers to help out with the cost of gas getting over here. So I hope a lot of people use it. It's an important thing. It's free and it's there for 4 days. So everybody should be able to hopefully attend one of those 4 days. We also have the community plan coming up on the 15th in Douglas City at the firehouse. I implore everybody to show up and participate in those. I kind of think that our attendance has been, in my district anyways, has been a little bit subpar. And this is not the time to be subpar when we're looking at a 25-year plan here. So I would hope that everybody would show up. We also have a same meeting on the, when is that meeting? It is on the 16th at the fairgrounds, the dining hall, same community plan. And I do hope that everybody shows up for that. I think attendance was a little bit low last time. So this is a very, very important time. We have 6-8 months to get this stuff together. And this is crunch time. So I hope everybody shows up for that. I did have a town hall meeting last Wednesday night in Roderick Center, well attended. They are pretty festive events. I enjoy having them. I think the people enjoy being there. So I will continue doing those once a month in Hayfork. I will move my next meeting to Northern Delights and the date to be announced. I think that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
I attended a CGTCAP meeting in Orland, which has helped me out, Supervisor Frazier. The Colusa Glen Trinity
Community Action Partnership.
Community Action Plan meeting. That's a lot of letters in that acronym. Anyway, the meeting was in Orland. It was my first to attend, and it was very enjoyable to hear about how 3 very rural communities are working together to do a lot of really good work for their citizenry. Yesterday, I had a North Coast Resource Partnership Group ad hoc committee meeting on dealing with issues of negative environmental impact from illegal cannabis grows in our county and several other counties that participate in the NCRP. I have attended NACO Rural Action Caucus meetings, public lands meetings via Zoom, and will be attending a NACO RAC meeting in the first part of December in Sonoma County. I do have a request for future agenda items. I really would like to take the time, maybe before the end of the year, or even at the first of the year, to deeply consider the possibility of a special voting opportunity on the TOT tax and the potential sales tax increase that we've talked about so much. I would just hate to miss the opportunity of, if the citizenry agrees on a TOT tax coming into the spring of 2025, capturing all of the visitors that we so enjoy through the spring, summer, and into the end of summer. So I would like to have a conversation about that if the board agrees, deeply take a deep dive into that, finding out what we need to do. I also just would like to say thank you to my district. And I know everyone is busy cutting firewood and deer hunting season has started. And I know that a lot of people are enjoying the woods and the river right now. And I just so appreciate seeing everybody out in our wonderful communities. It's very nice. I know farmers markets are starting to come to a close, and we had a highly productive summer. So I'm grateful for that and look forward to fall. I do just want to take a moment, because each one of us in these seats knows the tension and the care that we put into our communities when we're having disasters of any kind. Our name partner, Weaverville, North Carolina, was heavily hit by Hurricane Helene, as was the whole state, or the coastal regions of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. To date, we have lost 125 American souls because of the tragedy on the East Coast. And I just think that it is so very, very important that we think of ourselves as a giant American family, and we take the time to recognize that we have neighbors in the East that are mourning great losses. They have no cell service, they have no water, they have absolutely no resources. Mm-hmm. And if you have the chance to donate to a good organization that is helping there, please do. And if you are a praying person, pray for our American citizenry and just pay attention to what they're going through. We need help when we have fires, and we get donations from all over this country. And so I just hope that the citizenry of our community will pour into the folks that are in need over there. Thank you for your time and consideration of that.
Thank you. A couple of follow-up things for you. So first, on the North Coast Resource Partnership, I just wanted to mention that Christy Anderson has been working with Ryan, the SCED, the Economic Development Group, mm-hmm. on potential brownfield grant applications, mm-hmm. which has to do with cleaning up of sites and so forth. So I just wanted to make sure that you are in sync with what's happening there. Just I don't know if there's going to be an overlap, a way for you guys to collaborate, but since they're actively working on something, I just wanted to put on your radar.
Yes, sir. I will check in with her. I do know that the NCRP staff has been working with the local community, since we had the meeting here in Weaverville and they presented. I know that communication has remained open on that, but I will double check to make sure.
Okay, thanks. And then I would like to ask the board if there is consensus to try to look for the appropriate time to put something on the agenda to dig deeper into the various funding sources that were mentioned by the ad hoc committee and that Supervisor Carpenter has just mentioned.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for
leading
that
into
forward.
that. I would suggest a little bit of homework on what the board can put on agenda that is or on a ballot that's a special ballot versus having to wait. there's a distinction there that we would want to have clarity on before we walk into the discussion.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Supervisor Frazier.
All right. I did travel to Orland to the CGT CAP meeting. That was the final CGT CAP board meeting of the year. The next one will be in January in Reading. And actually this coming year, it's changed from 6 meetings. It'll be quarterly meetings, so there'll only be 4. There'll be one, the first one in Reading, then there'll be one in Colusa, one in Glenn, and one in Trinity County. So 4 meetings only next year for CGT CAP. I think that's the only real change to announce from that one. So,
Okay. Thank you, sir. Supervisor Cox.
Okay, I have a lot.
Okay.
So I was at the annual RCRC meeting, September 17th through 19th. There were over 300 participants in Sonoma County for the annual meeting. The featured events had engaging panel discussions with specialists discussing renewable energy storage, regenerative agriculture, sustainable forest management, and challenges of short-term rentals. So there are some things there to be looked into and potentially engaged with. This year's political panel provided insights from California Assembly Minority Leader James Gallagher and former Minority Leader of the State Senate, Brian Dahle, about their legislative leadership experience from the rural perspective. Incredibly interesting for them to share so deeply about. We know how our perspective changed when we landed in these seats, hearing how theirs changed and what they engage with in order to accomplish what they do. It just increases my regard for their job. Senate President Pro Tem McGuire also addressed the group with an opportunity to engage in dialogue around important issues facing rural communities. Twice, he gave a nod toward Trinity County with some comments, and I did not engage with him at the time. I decided a letter would be more appropriate and look forward to that communication. In addition to the panel discussions, we were treated to an inspiring session with a delegation, and I'm going to do my best. Rikuzen Takata. It is a community in Japan about the size of Crescent City. They shared a remarkable story of resilience and leadership in the aftermath of the 2011 tsunami. And Supervisor Carpenter-Harris, your comments this morning really engage with this. So I'm just going to tell you briefly what happened. Following that tsunami, about 9 hours later, Crescent City was hit with their end of that earthquake response. And 2 years later, a small oyster fishing boat washed up onto a Crescent City beach, was discovered by a law enforcement personnel. And the end of those discussions was that high school students engaged. They cleaned off barnacles larger than I've ever seen on anything, scrubbed up the boat, the markings. It took them about 2 hours on social media to discover where the boat came from. They returned the boat. And that, you could only imagine, as we're looking at victims today, the pain. And 2 years later, to have something personal returned to their city. The result was that these 2 cities became what we call sister cities, which reminds me of what maybe we could engage with Weaverville, North Carolina. And so the engagements with those high school students over the years, those kids have traveled back and forth. There are beautiful pictures of these Japanese students standing hand to hand, out facing around beautiful redwood trees in Del Norte County. And so I just want to give a shout out to our neighbors in Del Norte and say thank you for the way that they've engaged and make us so proud of just our West Coast involvement with neighbors across the sea and how we're just not that different. It was really beautiful. We were gifted a book by the mayor who wrote on his experience. He'd been mayor for a whole week when the incident happened. And in that moment, he had to decide, will I go find my wife and my two sons, or will I stay engaged with my community? And his wife perished in that event as he engaged with his responsibility to his community. And even in the telling of the story these years later, you know, the tears down his cheeks were just riveting. So each of the supervisors were gifted a signed copy of the book he wrote. And my copy is currently in the hands of one of our local junior high students. I hope to pass that book around and have students read that and see what that sparks in them that they might wish to engage in and plant a seed. So I want to report out on the basket that Trinity County, you know, contributed to that 40 county basket exchange. And I described for you before what those funds go to, why we do it, why we engage, and how we worked hard to make that a win-win, to try to make this one opportunity to bring some tourism into Trinity County. I want to just tell you that out of all 40 baskets that were provided, Trinity's was the first and of one of only 4 that broke the $3,000 mark. Yay. And the excitement in the room as the paddles were going up and people were fighting over this adventure package basket. It contained 13 total nights of accommodations here, 3 of which are on a houseboat. It contained a paragliding experience and a river rafting experience, and gift certificates from a good number of Trinity County merchants. The basket itself, the market value was $5,495. And it was thrilling to see. It was an RCRC staffer who finally won the basket. And she does not want to go paragliding, so she absolutely will be bringing somebody with her. So I think that just high five to all of them. We also had a local winery who contributed a case of red and a case of white wine to the first ever wine tasting competition that RCRC decided to engage with. Butte County won that by 1 vote. So congratulations to our neighbors there. But I just love the way our merchants dig in and contribute in ways that we look to build our own tourism. And I just thank them for that. On the legislative note, it is encouraging that Assembly Bill 2902 by our own Assemblymember Wood was signed by the governor, and that is the one that tears off of Cal Cycle's Senate Bill 1383, which gives us flexibility as one of 19 rural counties toward our organic waste regulations that would be upon us. That was really important to us, and so the signing of that is quite a victory. And report, did you want, the ad hoc is not on the list. Did you want an ad hoc report out today?
If there's something to talk about, we, like you said, we dissolved that, so.
No, I mean the one that you assigned Supervisor Gogan and myself for the tourism.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the funding source and I got confused. So yeah, we'll have to add that, Susie, in the future, the tourism partners funding allocation, I guess. I don't remember what we called it, but something to that effect. And so, yes, it would be great if you two would provide that update, but let me do mine first and then we'll move to the ad hoc updates. Thank you. For District 1, there was a CSAC insurance working group meeting. I think folks have been aware that CSAC, which is the California-wide Association of Counties, has established a working group, and they are meeting regularly with people in all different walks of life and work that are associated with this. And this was another very informative session. They had people from the federal level on, interestingly, just before this hurricane, and talking about the impacts not only of our wildfires that we're so focused on, but on hurricanes and tornadoes and hail. They described hail over 5 inches in one storm. But really speaking to the fact that, yes, they do acknowledge that it's a huge issue, that they at the federal level need to also work toward it. And also, I think, trying to make sure everybody on the call understood that the problem is much bigger than we experience here, and that other parts of the country are actually way worse off than we are from an insurance standpoint. It's hard to imagine, but it's true. So anyway, they're still working on it. These meetings continue. I'll continue to participate as my schedule allows, and I do have some notes I'll share with the board later. I just didn't get a chance to send them out yet. I was pleased to hear from the CSAC COO, Paul Densek. He is launching a new CSAC new supervisor onboarding template. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because it is a best practice template that was based on what we put together here in Trinity County. So it was great that he started with what we had. He reached out to other CAOs and such, and then got some feedback. I actually reached out to Mary in our office, who had been working on Julia's onboarding schedule, and gave them an opportunity to weigh in because we've been using it now for a little bit. And anyway, I just thought that was very encouraging that kind of started here in Trinity County, and now it will be a California-wide best practices template. And then Economic Development Summit. I actually haven't figured out if I'm attending this as a supervisor or as a TCDC board member, but I was invited to facilitate a panel on workforce development at an Economic Development Summit on the coast this month. And so there is someone from Trinity County who is on the panel. I'd just be one of the people facilitating 3 different panelists on the subject. So I think it's great. Again, Trinity County starting to get on the radar and be considered for participation in lots of different ways. And it's encouraging to see. So that's my update. So then on ad hocs, we'll start. Supervisor Carpenter Harris, did you have anything else on the tribal relations?
No, except for I just want to make sure that their presentations are put on the December 16th agenda. That's one of the date that they.
What date?
Why is everyone looking at me like that? Crazy.
I just didn't hear it.
December, the last meeting in December.
Okay.
I think that's the 16th.
The 17th?
Or I'm sorry, the 17th.
Okay.
Yes. For their, and then I will be working with CAO Tuthill and Supervisor Litweiler on the development of the letter, going through the process of what we're gonna speak back to them.
Okay. Great. Thank you. So Supervisor Gogan and Cox.
So following your assignment at the last board meeting, Supervisor Gogan and I met, and we decided to approach a recommendation not from a historic standpoint of which group should receive which percentages of available funds, but rather which proposed project or projects should be funded and to what extent. The ad hoc then reached out to various groups who have historically received tourism-related funding, as well as the Lewiston Community Association, who, along with the Trinity County Chamber, acting on behalf of all chambers and chamber-related entities, presented a report to the board at the last meeting describing the outcomes of their independent tourism-related work. And we requested that they each make a presentation before a review committee, speaking to a specific list of questions to be responded to. During the process of scheduling those groups, I realized that I have worked on a project that very well may come before this panel. So I have removed myself from the panel. The panel will, and if that project does get presented, I will remove myself from the vote the day that it comes back to the board. So the panel now includes Supervisor Gogan, Michelle Nystrom, who is the Community Relations Manager with Sierra Pacific Industries, and she holds a bachelor's degree in Business and Human Resource Management. Todd Jones, who I was thrilled to find out is originally from Weaverville. He is the current, in a list of a lot of accomplishments, he is currently the president of the Reading Chamber of Commerce, and we are still working to see if perhaps a member of the Siskiyou County EDC would participate on that panel as well. So that is a strong possibility. So with that, we will have a rubric for them to work from The presentations are all being held via Zoom, and to make it equal, perfectly equitable for everyone. And I will monitor the room for the panelists. We will provide a Zoom platform for them if they don't have reliable internet, perhaps where they are. And Supervisor Gogan will Zoom from a different room so that everyone has the exact same experience. And then that data will be pulled together and provided for full board consideration by the November 5th meeting. That's October 21st. I'm not sure if I did.
October 21st.
October 21st is the date of the people.
The panelists will present, correct. And then that gives us a little time to pull that data together in a way that is then ready to come before the board at the November 5th meeting.
And our time frame will be the evening of the 21st, correct?
Correct.
October, but what was the date of the meeting is?
November 5th, the board meeting, the date of the panelists presenting October 21st, Monday.
And I
the
heard
21st.
evening, something deadline of the evening of the
It will be-
21st.
So we're doing an evening time frame because people
Oh,
work.
okay.
So it's a Monday. So they have 30-minute intervals from 5 to 8 or 8:30. There's one group I've not heard back from yet. I sent paperwork via a hard copy and also have a phone call in, but I haven't heard back yet from the Humboldt Trinity Recreation Alliance in South County. Everyone else has their times listed and are on board to present their project proposals.
Great. Sounds very well organized and planned. I really look forward to hearing what you come up with.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions for Supervisor Gogan or Cox?
No.
Well, thanks for doing that. Yeah, that's going to be great. All right. With that, we will move on to our consent calendar. These items include routine, non-controversial matters and will be acted upon by the board by one roll call motion. If a member of the public has any questions or comments on an item on the consent calendar, they may provide them now. A member of the board or staff may request an item be pulled and considered separately. We'll first take public comment. Any in the room? Any online?
I have no raised hands.
Okay. Did anyone on the board want to, or staff want to move something from the consent calendar for discussion? Nope. Entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve as presented.
I will second.
No discussion. Let's move forward.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier?
Aye.
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Chairman Litweiler?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to county matters. Items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department. A member of the board, staff, or public may request that an item be heard out of order. First item is County Administrative Office adopt a resolution which adopts the final budget for fiscal year 24-25, $144,790,291.
All right, Chair, I'll give a intro to this item. So we had the budget hearings on the 24th of September. They were noticed and held in accordance with the County Budget Act. And based upon that direction provided, before you today is the resolution adopting the final budget for 24-25 in the amount that you just read, in addition to a contingency fund of $580,000. During budget hearings, we were directed to go back on the final budget presented and make adjustments to both the Friends of the Library, or based upon both the Friends of the Library and TASA proposals. I have met with each of those groups after budget hearings, and both proposals in principle and concept are very favorable And I'm confident the final MOUs can be negotiated with each group. The proposed resolution in front of you today does not provide a specific date of finalizing those MOUs, but it just mentions expeditiously as possible. But we're targeting, just for your awareness, approximately 30 days to have those MOUs complete, pending final budget adoption today. The resolution also asks that I be provided authority to finalize those MOUs based upon those discussions that we'll have. But just as a reminder to the board and public, some of this topic has kind of already been discussed, but these proposals are only a very short-term bridge until the end of this fiscal year, which is only 9 months away. And some folks might think that's a long time, but it's really not in relation to how much work and effort needs to go into looking at these longer term solutions and finding some different ways of doing business, so we're not in this same situation at the same time next year. So with some strong community support, I believe that we can come up with some long-term options and potential solutions, so we're not having these same discussions next year. One other change that you'll see in the budget as presented is the inclusion of budget authority for the Veterans Memorial Hall modernization project. This was inadvertently, left out of the proposed budget, so we wanted to formally make sure that the board is aware of it. In this budget, I just wanted to highlight it, that it is in the final adopted budget in the amount of $175,000 of budget authority. Within that, on the 17th of September, it was approved for the initial design project of $147,000, which we already had that design kickoff meeting last week, and the 35% design is due mid-December. And at that point in time is when we'll have enough details to have community engagement and discussions and make decisions as far as what actual work will be done. With the remaining approximately a little over $100 million will be remaining, probably in the 1.2 range of that initial 1.5 that we can actually do, upgrades within the CD hall. But again, that decision point will be mid-December, and then that final design project is due for completion in the summer of 25. Following that is when we would do an RFP for actual work. But I would like to just thank all staff again, like I did at budget hearings, for the tremendous amount of work that went into this budget development. I'd also like to thank the board and many members of the public for your efforts and engagement, as we had numerous opportunities for public engagement. We had some very fruitful and beneficial discussions. And I'm optimistic about the ways going forward that we may be able to address some of these budget concerns. So open for any questions at this time.
Any questions for CAO Tuthill? I just wanted to, I'll wait till we move on. This is not a question, so I won't put it forward now. Okay, let's open up for public comment.
Ben?
Hello again, Ben Kellogg, Weaverville. Sincerely, I would like to thank the Board of Supervisors, staff, the CAO, everyone who's worked on the budget. It doesn't fall on deaf ears. This is a monumental project every year. Speaking as a TASA board member, I thank you too for working with us, trying to find a solution. Today is a bit sobering. I am conflicted. I'm happy that we're working towards a solution, hopefully be finalized soon. But on the other hand, I kind of think it's short term, we're kicking it down the road for 25, 26, and we're going to be right back here. So it's definitely mixed feelings. On another note, as far as I think there's the Forest Service presentation was great earlier. It makes me nervous that, and I brought this up in the past, public safety, our fire departments have very little. If the poop hits the fan and we're cut off from state and federal resources, what do they have? We're all on our own. And for the fact that they get very little scares me, and it realistically should scare everybody else. And I hope with the general plan, my words kind of go down on paper. We do need to fund the fire departments more. It's a 25-year plan. We realistically should baby step a comprehensive plan for our volunteer fire departments. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no additional raised hands.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion, comments, questions at this point?
I have a general comment. I don't know if now's the time to speak it or.
Is it related to the budget?
Yes.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Please.
I just want to take a minute again to speak forward into our department heads and our staff, knowing that this is a heavy lift for our county and for all of our departments to advance forward, knowing that at every turn there's going to be a new challenge with this budget scenario. And I just hope that each one of our department heads can really uplift their staff and make sure that although we may lack funds, that we do not lack in positivity and the opportunity to lead with hope. And I also would like to encourage, as I've gotten some reports from some of my constituents, that if you do have negative things to say, maybe don't do them in front of the public. So I know that it's hard. We all have work environments where we need to vent, but I just hope that we can stay positive and lead with our heads up and our eyes forward, collectively walking together and doing the hard work that's necessary and needed and deserved by our citizenry. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Yes, sir.
So I'd just like to thank everybody who buckled down on this. This was a tough year for all on the budget. And I just wanted to thank the board, the department heads who took a cut this year, which is hard to do. I also like to thank Trent, Craig, and Susie, who's been doing 2 jobs over the last month or so, which is hard to do, but she's done them great. And we should be thankful that we are getting into the situation that we are getting into. Things look better than ever here. They're not great, but we're moving in the right direction. So it's a great sign for this board and the people involved. So thank everybody.
Thank you.
I would take this opportunity to add equal weight of gratitude to the folks from the animal shelter, as I expressed to the folks from the library at our last meeting, who now have come forward with their MOU for review and discussion and hopefully soon adoption. Another example of community workers coming together with those areas they are passionate about to work toward the ends they want to see. And I do appreciate that. Add my weight of gratitude to those comments already made. I am in agreement. So thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Frazier? No? There were 2 things. The one I was about to say earlier and decided I needed to wait a little bit was I just wanted to acknowledge Eric Keys, because I did notice when we approved allocation of funding before for the Veterans Hall that his firm was not the one chosen to carry out that work. And that's the way our processes work. You put out the bid, you choose the best solution. But I don't believe we would be here without his contributions. He worked very hard behind the scenes knowing that he might not get that business for his firm. And yet he really helped us move that forward a lot. I know I didn't sit in on half the meetings that some of you others did, but he was always there, always helping to move the process forward. And I just wanted to acknowledge his contribution to our community.
And while you're acknowledging that, we should add Daleen Donaldson to that list, because without her vision and her passion and her tenacity, which is, there isn't a good description for how tenacious she is. And so appreciated. And without that and her reaching out to the senator and really making her desires known in that way, we wouldn't be sitting on $1.5 million, where we will see some wonderful transformation in a building that is largely used and dearly loved. So appreciate that, Daleen.
Thank you. And then just to, well, County Council, let me state this, and then you can come back either now or later, but at some point, I would like to ask that you give the board some guidance to follow up on Supervisor Carpenter Harris's comments. Because I know that there are some rules at some point in the process that the board has to work within when we're talking about potential ballot measures and things like that that could come from tax revenues and so forth. And I just want us to make sure as we move forward, we understand the guardrails that we have to work within, because I plan to be pushing as close to those guardrails as I can to try to make things happen, but I obviously don't want to step over them. So if you want to comment now,
happy to comment.
Okay, thanks.
The question was, putting a tax measure forward, when is the appropriate time? Tax measures are required to be put forward on general elections. Our next general election is not till 2026. There is an exception that says that if you can declare an emergency in your jurisdiction with a unanimous vote of the board, you can do it earlier through a special election. So that would most likely be the mechanism you'd be utilizing, which, and based on the budget and what we've seen, there's no question you would qualify for it. But it would require the unanimous vote of the board to be placed on the next ballot, next special election ballot we choose. So that would be what we would be looking at doing. Otherwise, you have to wait a good period of time for the next general election.
So for added clarity on that, Council, if I could, your staff, I don't recall his name, I apologize, who's here in your place last? Yes, thank you. He looked something up kind of on the spot and said, because I hadn't heard this emergency component that you just described, but that if the public brings it forward, then it can happen sooner as well.
That is absolutely correct. So the other option is that the public can bring it forward. They have the option to do it at any time. They're not bound by the same rules of the Board of Supervisors with the general election. So that would be another option. There's also a benefit when the public brings it forward, because if you're doing a special tax, I mean a focused tax, if you do it through voter push, you are not required to have the 66.6%. It would just be 50+1, because there's a special rule that happened that came out less than 10 years ago that they made a determination that 66.6% is only for voters, for board sponsored proposition. So it does give you additional options. But you would have to go through the formalized process of having a community group to get the signatures and go through that process.
And I would assume in that you would be providing direction to us, because that's when we would have some guardrails as far as our input into that.
Absolutely. Well, the public can do it at any time, but if you are looking to put together an ad hoc or a committee where you're asking the public to get involved, I will absolutely put the guardrails up for you. But it's doable, and it's been done, and it is definitely a preferred mechanism for special tax because it lowers the voter approval and it requires the public to be more involved in the beginning.
And I would assume this requires something more than a person or two stepping forward and saying, I want this. Is there a certain number of signatures on a petition or something like that?
It is, and I don't know it off the top of my head. I'm going to guess it's around 10% of the voters of the last election, but I can't remember. Shannon would know that. I can look that up as well. But it would require a whole process they go through where they submit a proposed resolution. The county approves it. They give them a form. They submit it. They go out and get signatures. They resubmit it. Then it gets on the ballot. So the board has to approve it before it gets on the ballot. But it's more, the board doesn't really have an option. It just comes for a vote and you put it on the election. So it is a very formalized process, which we have utilized before in this jurisdiction. So we're ready to go.
Okay, thanks. And I guess the last question on this that I can think of at the moment is, I do recall when we had some tax measures on the ballot before, I think I was not yet in office, but I think I had been elected. And so that even there was still some restrictions on what I could say or do regarding a ballot measure. So I guess I'm looking for clarity for all of us, including a new supervisor who'll be coming on soon. What can and can't we do in support of or against a ballot measure like this before and during its time on a ballot?
So prior to it being placed on the ballot, so prior to it coming to the board for a formal vote to place on the ballot, you are the same as a regular citizen, which means you have the right to participate in any way or mechanism that you want. Once the item is formally placed on the ballot, there are restrictions that you cannot lobby for it. You can only present facts. I do have a formal memo that goes through the do's and don'ts of ballot measures, which I will submit to you today, just so you can have an idea. But there's very specific rules. You can present factual information. You can't present a position. You can't utilize this forum to lobby for it, but you can, again, present any information on our current budget, what the use of it was going to be for, or any generalized factual information. But at this point, before it's on the measure, it's free to discuss. It's free to go around and try to get community support. But the moment it becomes on the ballot, the rules change.
Thank you. And you'll forward that to us so that we have it all in hand and make sure that Julia gets it as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. And then I just wanted to echo some of the comments that were made, but especially CAO Tuthill, I know that this was not an easy process. And what I appreciate is the fortitude, I guess I'll call it, to take the stand and say, we need to make tough decisions now. They may be unpopular, but they need to be made for the health of the county in the long run. And also your acknowledgement that it is absolutely wonderful that these two nonprofits stepped up in the way they did to support services that were very important to them and to others. But it is absolutely not a long-term solution. And those two very visible things don't speak to the breadth of our problems. I keep coming back to, we've reduced 22 positions from a place in which the county was not fully staffed at that point. The departments have never had all the people that they feel they need to do the services that our residents and businesses expect of them. So we took away 22 more positions. We took away a bunch of other funding, and we can't lose sight of that. And I think in my latest update, I sent out a note that said, I'm not a big fan of taxes and tax increases, but I am a realist, and it's just unfair to keep expecting the same thing from our people when we aren't giving them the resources they need to do their work. So,
and
my 2 cents.
And for the community at large I know it's difficult when you drive really, really far and you thought a window was going to be open and maybe it has closed that day, but just to please make sure you check the service, the front desk services that you're going to be coming into town for, and making sure that they're open and schedule your day around that. And just recognize that our departments are doing everything that they can. And some of those reduced service windows are part of this current situation that we're in. And just remember to be kind, because through kindness, we can get through this.
Thank you for that. Okay, at that, we can call the vote.
Supervisor Frazier?
Right.
Sorry. Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris?
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye.
Chairman Leutwiler?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, we have a closed session item. Actually, let me go back and see.
Had no closed session last
No
time.
closed session item last time. Okay, thank you. Closed session item F1, Government Code Section 54954.5C, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, number of cases 1. Do we have any public comment regarding closed session?
I have no raised hands.
Thank you. And thank you to our friends from KRCR coming to be with us. Okay, we will now move into closed session. Thank you.